Welcome in, welcome in. We're back here with another edition of Max Marquee Matchup. I am excited for this game. We've got two explosive offenses. We're going to have a track meet in a dome, and I am excited for it. Look, we've got the one-seeded Detroit Lions. We've got the upstart Washington Commanders, fresh off a wild card road win with their rookie quarterback in Jayden Daniels. And we've got two guys returning to the podcast that were here earlier in the season that I'm happy to talk more football with as we get further into the playoffs, divisional round, best weekend of the year, if you ask me personally. So I'm looking forward to this. So with further ado, going to go ahead and introduce you guys. First, representing the number one seed, Detroit Lions, Mr. Miko Scott of One Pride. Happy to have you back, Mac. Happy to have you back. My apologies. Pride of Detroit. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back. It's always been a good time whenever I've been welcome back here. So really looking forward to another great conversation.
Absolutely happy to have you back. And welcome in as far as the wild card team, Washington Commanders traveling on the road to Detroit. We have Manny back. Mr. Mander Manny, how are you doing, dog? Welcome to have you back.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's good to be back. I didn't think, I would be looking forward to another game at this time of year, but, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Look, hey, you never know what's going to happen when you get in the playoffs. All you got to do is get in the dance. You guys certainly showed that as far as your win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. And starting with that, of course, Commanders played what was easily the best game of the weekend as far as that was concerned. I thought it might be kind of the best matchup as going into it, the most competitive game. It certainly delivered. Back and forth affair, you guys and Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You guys were able to pull out that win at the end as Jayden Daniels has continued to show his mettle, beyond his years as far as a rookie quarterback is concerned, and no issues going on the road in a tougher environment and being able to pull out that game late. So as we move into this, of course, the Detroit Lions as the one seed did have the week off. They're out resting, making sure that they were ready, prepared to go ahead and have this playoff run go through Detroit, and excited about that. I'm sure you guys are as far as that is concerned. So I do want to start specifically as far as Jayden Daniels, though. Manny, talk a little bit about his progression, obviously, throughout this year. We talked about this a little bit as far as before the Ravens game as well, but the fact that now you've seen him be able to test his ability going on the road in a playoff environment, be able to pull out that win, the composure that you think he's going to need to carry through now moving into this game in Detroit as well against the one seed of the NFC.
Yeah, first I'm super impressed with Jayden. Obviously Heisman winner. We knew he was talented. We just didn't know how long it would take for him to translate that talent to the next level. I thought, since because he did have that experience in college, and he has seen a lot of different disguises and coverages, but nothing on the next level. So, the first week with Tampa, Todd Bowles, he gave him what he had. It was like, okay, welcome to the league. But then since then, it's like he's been getting more comfortable. We saw that early on against the Bengals. Just confident, and he's poised. That's not the kind of things you really see for somebody in their third or fourth start. Going against, a high-powered offense like that. So that showed me that, as he goes, this team goes, because, that defense was not stopping Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. It was just going to be a shootout. But for him to, be able to convert on almost every drive and, put points on the board, it shows him that he can go toe-to-toe with anybody, no matter how powerful their offense is. So he's going to always keep us in the game, even if our run game isn't, up to par. So I just like his confidence. I like that he's been able. He doesn't seem phased. He's seen a lot of different disguises and coverages. They've been trying to go at him. But I like how he's been able to adjust, and I like the chemistry that he has with Cliff. It feels like he has grasp of the offense and grasp of the NFL at an early stage. So I'm excited to see how he goes from there.
Yeah, look, I think that having that synergy with Cliff is going to pretty much be key as far as this game is concerned. You guys are going to have to go on the road and put up some points in this matchup if you guys want to keep this close, certainly from that perspective. And I think that synergy is going to play a very key role as far as being able to make some tweaks and adjustments to attack the Detroit Lions. Speaking of which, you guys being able to sit at home, rest, recuperate, obviously game plan accordingly. The one thing that I do want to talk about from a storyline perspective, and it's not necessarily just Jared Goff centric, but it is the idea of this culture that has been built through Dan Campbell and the entirety of the front office that believed in Dan Campbell as well. The idea that it has been a slow build from what was, hopeful and signs of hope even in losing seasons previously. Obviously, we saw, you guys compete at the end of the 2022 season. I believe that was against Aaron Rodgers, in which you guys were able to win that last game in Green Bay. And then you see, obviously, the pop, which was last year, be able to make that run to the NFC Championship game. For this run to now be positioned that it is going to go through Detroit with this roster that has looked great all year, that has gone through a lot of attrition and still been able to perform at this high level, particularly, kind of ending, for the regular season with that big win in the Vikings to secure that 1 seed in the NFC North. How do you feel coming out of that bye week and really it all building now to this moment to complete or start this playoff run that you feel like can end in the place that you guys, ultimately are desperate to get to?
Yeah, this is storybook stuff, in all honesty, when you look at Detroit, right? Like, this is stuff that you see in movies. This is Remember the Titans type stuff where you're like, you have this team that's been downtrodden forever, right? And then like this random coach comes in that doesn't quite, fit the aesthetic of every other coach in the league. And he's talking about biting kneecaps and he's talking about toughness. And it's like this mix of old school with like a touch of like, this dude's a little insane. But it's crazy to look at it from a Lions fan's perspective, and everything that Dan Campbell has talked about from day one has happened. And that's why I say it's very much like storybook. Like, it doesn't always happen like this. And I'm sure all of us being fans of not just like our NFL teams, but any other sport, every coach talks about what they want to build and what a culture is going to look like. And it rarely looks like this. It's rarely steady progression like this. Like you said, they go through that first season. They're 13-1. They go into the next season. I believe they're 9-8 or 9-7, something like that. Then we like you said, last year, great. We were able to get into the playoffs, win our division for the first time. And now we're sitting here at the number 1 seed. It's rare to see these types of things happen. And so now for the Lions to have, true control of their destiny, because everything has to go through Detroit, I think it's like a little bit of mixed emotion. There's a certain level of excitement of just like, hey, everyone has to come here and prove that they're better than us. But at the same time, like it's high stakes, right? And if we understand that in the NFL, it's truly any given Sunday. So if the Lions don't bring their best, even a team like Washington can really give them fits based off of how high-powered their offense is. So it's still very much, I think, when you look at the Lions, you look at Dan Campbell, it doesn't change their approach to any of these games. Like, they still look to go out there and prove that they earned this number 1 seed, right? That they truly were the best team in the NFC, and hopefully be able to get to that big dance to be able to prove that they were the best team in the NFL the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. This is what you have to do. Even as far as a regular season can feel storybook, even for years building up to it, it's about putting it on the field and being able to follow through from that perspective. I love the story of the Lions. I love the story of the Commanders, especially now. It feels like a little bit of redemption from, the RG3. I don't mean to make up bad memories, Manny, but just bringing it forward now with what Jayden Daniels has been able to do and represent for your team, kind of a new lease on life with you guys changing the ownership and everything. I like both of these storylines so much, and I hope that we get a representative fireworks type of game that can back up as far as the storylines are concerned from that perspective too. So, all that being said, though, we can get specifically into the matchup from this standpoint, and I will start on the Lions side of the ball on offense versus the Commanders defense. Now, obviously, the Commanders defense has had significant issues throughout the entirety of this season. They did go out and trade for Marshawn Lattimore. That was a trade. It had its issues. He obviously struggled with injury throughout the regular season, and then had his issues versus Mike Evans in the wild card round. That being said, as far as the Lions are concerned, this is top 2, if not number 1, offensive line in football. Jared Goff has been playing extremely high efficient football the entirety of the season. Amon-Ra St. Brown is, flat out one of the best and all-pro, point blank period wide receiver in the league. Sam Laporta has come on later on in the season, particularly as the Lions have started to use a little bit more of those heavy personnel sets to attack teams. And they finally have Sonic and Knuckles back with David Montgomery seemingly healthy, ready to go for this divisional playoff game. So talk to me about kind of the confluence of all of those things as you guys look forward in attacking what is, a Dan Quinn Commanders defense that is trying its best out there, is the nice way to put it.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better if you're a Lions fan, right? Like you said, everything is starting to come together at the right time. The Lions won't have Kevin Zeitler, so that offensive line is going to be a little shuffled with Christian Mahogany stepping in for him. But this is not something new to the Lions either. Like, again, whether it's been Zeitler or Graham Glasgow, they've missed games, and Christian Mahogany has come on later in the season and has proven to be a great draft pick that's been able to come in and be serviceable. So when you start with the offensive line, like, I feel fairly confident that this Lions offensive line is going to be able to at least be able to create lanes in the run game. And going back and looking at, again, how Washington kind of fared against Tampa, that's the thing that, again, as a Lions fan, that gives me the most hope when you're able to see someone like Bucky Irving be able to, move the ball and things like that here and there. You now have that same type of, feeling when you have a Jahmyr Gibbs back there that it's been on a tear ever since David Montgomery went down. But the thing that I think you get with the Lions that the Bucks didn't quite have was, even when Bucky Irving would have a good first or second down run and now they're in third and short, they didn't have anyone that they trusted in those short yardage situations. The Lions do now in David Montgomery. And so having Knuckles back there, what you're going to get if it's, 2nd and 3, or even if it's 4th and 2, like, you're going to get a heavy dose of David Montgomery. I love how you pointed out Sam Laporta coming on later in the season. Sam did not have a great start to the season, despite being an All-Pro last year, despite being a Pro Bowl selection. There were a lot of, excitement about, hey, he's becoming one of the top 3 tight ends in the NFL. And for whatever reason, things weren't quite clicking. And it's a possibility that there's just too many mouths to feed on this Lions offense. And it was just a matter of trying to figure out where Sam was going to fit, because in all honesty, the emergence of Jamison Williams has kind of been the thing that reset everything. We know Amon-Ra is going to get his touches. We know the running game is going to get going. But Jamo's emergence is the thing where it's like, okay, well, now we have to be able to get, him involved, and it can't just be on 50-yard bombs every single game. So now you do have a lot of balance to this offense. And I think if you're a Commanders fan, that does have to worry you a little bit, in the sense that, like, what do we necessarily take away? Because just because we take away this one thing, there are still 3, 4, 5 other players on this offense that can still hurt you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, it is a conundrum, to say the least, for what the Commanders are going to have to face from that perspective. In these games in which you have a defense, and this is kind of just my general philosophy, that it's undermanned, and that this team can get at you from a myriad of ways, whether it's through the air or on the ground. I approach it like I'm going to a roulette table. I'm not a gambling man particularly, but I'm just saying. You have to go out there and just hope that you roll the dice and hit it on the 7 at the right time. Create some type of turnovers, play in chaos. If they go down and score, I trust my offense to go and answer it. That's just how we're going to have to try and win this game. Live in that area of variance. Manny, do you feel like there are aspects of your team, particularly because the interior defensive line maybe can give you a little bit more of a fight, at least versus the run game, that you feel confident that at least there can be some ways to try and create that chaos and variance, that you can create maybe 1 to 2 turnovers to try and flip the game on its head?
Yeah, it is it's a different ball game than it was last week. Bucky and Rashad, they're talented backs, and Bucky was able to get his own. It's Jahmyr and then Monty back. That's going to be a different ball game. I have faith in our interior. I think these guys need to step up a little bit more because we've been expecting a lot more from them, but we haven't been seeing that. With John Allen, he's been injured, but coming back, we expect him to kind of shore up the inside a little bit. I'm worried about outside the tackles, because that's when Gibbs can really hurt us. Whether it's in on the run game or in the pass game. I think he's going to be that's kind of, why I'm kind of happy that, Monty's healthy. He's going to take away a little bit of those touches. Nothing against Monty. That's my guy. That's been my guy for a couple of years now. But Jameer, giving him, 20, 30 touches, I think that's giving him a lot of opportunities to beat us. I think you guys are going to not have too many issues, moving the ball against us, especially through the air. But I think you guys won't even give Jared Goff the opportunity to, throw the ball as much, because you're going to find some success on the ground. So I don't think, we're going to have too many chances to stop you guys. But I think if we can get some turnovers, maybe create a fumble, get a tip, just some type of turnover that can, that can change the game, give us momentum on offense. Because, our best defense right now has been our offense, just been keeping the other team off the field. And when we've been getting the ball back and we've getting the ball last, that's really when our defense is at our best. So we're still working on that part. But I think, if it's going to go, our offense is going to have to play out our best. Our defense is, I don't have too much faith in them. We exceeded expectations so far, so I'm happy about that. But our defense has a long way to go. I think Joe Witt, I think he has some questions to answer this offseason, but he doesn't have his guys, so we're going to give him the grace of that, because we don't have a very good team. We've been outperforming our roster because of Jayden. But I think defensively, we have some playmakers. I think if they're able to make a play or two, if this is indeed, a shootout and it's going to be every possession, both teams are going to be scoring, we're going to need some things to go in our way. Our offense is going to have to play out our best, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think our defense needs to get, maybe if they can get a stop and then a turnover too, I think, they're going to do their job. I mean, that's all I'm expecting from them. I'm not expecting them to keep, their running game under 200 yards rushing. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. But if we can get a turnover and then a stop, I like their chances there.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a lot that's going to be on the offensive shoulders from that aspect of it. But if your ability to take the fight to them in the interior is something that possibly can happen, then you have a shot to maybe affect Jared Goff. But that's really the best path to victory, because we know the outside talent is in Detroit's favor, especially now that J-Mo's taking the step he has. Tim Patrick is playing really good ball for the Lions as well. Obviously, like we talked about, Laporta and Mon are playing at an extremely high level, and that's before you get into what their run game presents, which is problems all over the place and headaches for defensive coordinators as well. But to your point, speaking about the best defense in some cases being a great offense, the ability to have a ball control offense, when we're talking about the Commanders, specifically in Jayden Daniels, the short passing game, the quick passing game, obviously that Cliff Kingsbury has specialized in. The question that I would ask, and I'm going to come back to you, Manny, on this from this perspective, do you feel confident in the aspect of saying maybe there are aspects of this Detroit Lions that can be had? We saw last week, or I should say we saw versus the Vikings, they really took advantage of Sam Darnold in some ways, and they clearly, were able to live in that way to make it very difficult for him. And obviously the Rams took that blueprint to heart from that perspective as well the very next week in the wild card round. But Jayden Daniels shows a lot more poise. We know how good Terry McLaurin has been this year. Seen a little bit of the secondary weapons. I think the Lions' plan of attack is going to be playing really tough man coverage with extra help to Terry McLaurin's side. What are those secondary weapons that you feel like can keep you guys, A, on schedule, but B, try and hurt this Detroit Lions, defense and put some points on the board, put some pressure on that offense, maybe make that variance go in your way ultimately?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of respect for Aaron Glenn, one of my favorite defensive coordinators in the league right now. He definitely deserves a head coaching opportunity. My team is going to be lucky to have him. But right now, I think they're not gonna change anything that Todd Bowles threw at Jayden. They're gonna try and bring pressure. He's still a rookie. They might not bring pressure in the same ways. They might not bring it as much because they have struggled a little bit against mobile quarterbacks. But even with that, it's been a small sample size. And if you look at the guys that they have played, it's like, how are you going to stop them? But I think Jayden is one of those guys. So I think he's ready. I think we're going to need to convert on pretty much every drive. We can't leave drives empty-handed. At least the field goal, but I think we're gonna just try and go for touchdowns. I feel like our confidence and reliability in him on 3rd and 4th down, it showed us that we can kind of trust him to keep drives moving, to just in big situations that it doesn't have to be to Terry. He'll find guys like Diami. You saw Diami have a huge week, when we needed it most. Even though Terry had a good game, but there was a lot of attention being paid to him. So that's opens up the field for a lot of other guys too. Like Diami, I think he's taken a big step. A couple years ago, we weren't really too sure that that he wasn't worth the 2nd round pick. And then with Sam Howell, we thought he would take off from there. It didn't really happen. But now it's his kind of breakout moment, I'll say. But it's shown that he's worked a lot on his hands, fighting through contact, and then especially yards after the catch. I feel like the screen game is going to be pretty. I'll say we'll see it a lot. Just to get the ball out of Jayden's hands quick, and try and get those short yardage, because it's going to be a 4 down, at least 4 downs, 4 down territory. Every drive, we're unless obviously we're on our side of the field and on the other side of the 30. But I think we're not going to be in that situation too often. We'll at least try and chip away. And then we have Austin Eckler too. I feel like we didn't get him involved as much. He did miss about a month because of that concussion, and he was on IR. But I think having him back, that's going to be huge too. He's going to give us that extra juice. He made a big play against Tampa last week too, that helped us seal the drive, one of our last scoring drive. So I feel like he's going to get involved. Zach Ertz, I feel like he's reliable as well. Jayden's going to keep looking to him, but I do respect, Detroit's linebackers, so I'm not sure how much he'll be involved. But, when it gets to 3rd and 4th down, Zach and Jayden have that chemistry. So that I think, it's going to show on those later downs, and maybe in the red zone. He's been having Zach Ertz has been, having a hot streak in the end zone. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see him, find his way there again. So
yeah,
those guys, I like this offense's chances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the middle of the field there is going to be the key, certainly with Zach Ertz from that perspective. I think there's a sprinkle of obviously Zacchaeus and Luke McCaffrey coming out of the slot as well, in addition to what Diami Brown can add to what Terry brings to the table. If you guys are able to kind of keep it up tempo and get after some of the depth as far as this Detroit Lions team, and maybe try and wear down this defense, obviously that has, again, gone through that attrition from that perspective as well. When you look at what the Lions have gone through on defense, and obviously now still playing at a high level because of what Aaron Glenn can bring to the table in a scheme, how do you feel like you can attack Jayden Daniels, make him uncomfortable in this specific situation, maybe in which the Tampa Bay Buccaneers weren't necessarily? Do you feel like this is going to be a matchup in which you can take advantage of a few things, particularly along the trenches as well?
Yeah, I do in a way think that the Lions are kind of prepared for a Jayden Daniels. And I think first and foremost, getting that first round bye allows you to look at a team like Tampa that has a very good defense, and you're able to kind of dissect what they did wrong in a lot of situations. We kind of broke that down over on our YouTube channel, where just looking at what Jayden Daniels likes to do. And there's certain tendencies. And I think there's one thing that Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell, this coaching staff, does better than a lot of other teams in the NFL, which is why they were able to get such a good record this year, is that they key in on tendencies. And so one of the tendencies with Jayden Daniels is like, he loves to go right. And the Lions love to force you to do things that you don't want to do. So in a situation with Jayden Daniels, like you said, they will bring pressure. They're going to try to pressure him. I'm interested to see how often they pressure him from the right side to force him to go left, because that doesn't seem like the most comfortable situation for him in terms of, obviously with him being a right-handed quarterback, rolling left really limits the number of options that he has. I think another thing that really comes into play with this Detroit Lions defense is, while they have been decimated in terms of a lot of their defensive line talent, losing Aleem McNeil, losing Aiden Hutchinson, they have gotten some talent back when you look at the linebacker level and the safety level. When you talk about Alex Anzalone and specifically Ifeatu Melifonwu, Iffy is a player that doesn't get a lot of shine necessarily because he is that third safety, but he is their best blitzer. And I don't mean just as a safety. I mean pure blitzing abilities. Iffy does it just as well as anybody else on the team. And so if you're trying to really catch Jayden Daniels off guard, now that they have Iffy back and they're able to rotate their safeties truly, where Iffy will play deep safety, he'll play in the nickel, and they will rotate him and Brian Branch in those roles, it gives Jayden Daniels so much more to think about, because you don't know, like, if he disguises his blitzes perfectly, he will be in the slot and you will think that he's in coverage, and the next thing you know, you have 6'3", 210 pounds right there in your face. Like, he's just that athletic. And I think he's the player that they're going to try and employ the most in terms of getting to Jayden Daniels and forcing him to do things that he doesn't want to do. Whether that's, again, having to adjust his read, or again, hopefully forcing him out the pocket in another different way. I also want to say that with this defensive line, they are a little more well coached in regards to gap integrity, because that's honestly the biggest thing when it comes to a quarterback with mobility, especially someone like Jayden Daniels, who, you know, was second in the NFL amongst quarterbacks with the most rushing yards. Like, he's going to run. They're also going to design runs for him. The only solution to that is, hey, everybody has to be gap sound. You can give up one or two of those, but if it becomes a pattern where it's every single drive he's continuing to extend plays, that's going to be a problem. And so you look at those two things, and I think another thing that is going to play heavily into this defense's favor and probably be something difficult for Jayden Daniels in this offense is the noise. Like, Ford Field has become the place where, you know, we used to talk about Seattle back in the day with the 12th man. Ford Field gets insane. And now that it's playoff time and Dan Campbell and this organization has hyped up this fan base and basically letting them know, like, hey, you guys have an impact on the game, it's something else that you have to consider. I know the Commanders are very heavily reliant on no huddle, but it's still one of those things where, hey, if you can't communicate the next play and be able to make adjustments because of the noise, that's going to put you in a lot of situations where no huddle is not going to be as effective for you, because you're really going to be struggling to communicate across your entire offense what adjustments need to be made.
Yeah, look, I completely understand it. It is a difficult principle to go on the road and then run a hurry up offense from that aspect. But it's also a difficult principle to go up against the Aaron Glenn defense in general, because you know you're going to get those disguised looks, you're going to get those different blitz packages, you're going to get those sim pressure looks, those things that make you question what you're seeing pre-snap, and then post-snap can confuse you into making those mistakes. Jayden Daniels has shown a level of poise to this point. Obviously, now the level of difficulty is going to be ratcheted up from that aspect. To me, I think that their best shot is to unfortunately go into that hurry up offense, to try their best to try and keep the tempo up from that perspective. If they try and settle down into, kind of trying to methodically go down the field, I'm afraid that the Lions defense is probably going to wear them down, and Aaron is going to catch them once or twice, put them behind the sticks and get them off the field. And obviously, as we discussed, as far as the other side of the ball is concerned, they can't afford to be taken off the field without points too often in this game, to say the least. That being said, the thing that I do like about this is both your coaching staffs do, subscribe to the idea of aggression. And some people will say that it's reckless. I personally don't think so. And I think there's a method to both the madness of being able to do so consistently through the regular season to prepare your team ready for when you have to do it in the highest level moments, possible, of saying, hey, it's not like, oh, we all of a sudden have to go for it on fourth down. No, we're doing this because that's what we do here, and we're ready and prepared to do so when it matters most as well. That's what the Commanders are certainly going to have to do, and that's what we certainly expect the Lions to do in those high leverage moments as well. I always love talking ball as far as this matchup is concerned. As far as the best bets are concerned, so I will start it off, and I kind of hinted at it based on what I've seen from this perspective. Something that the Commanders defense has struggled with is particularly the tight end position. I expect the Lions to use that judiciously as it pertains to Sam Laporta. So I do have Sam Laporta getting a touchdown in this game personally as my best bet. Manny, if you would, as the visitor, go ahead and lead us off with yours.
I think, obviously Lions, they have the better team. They had the first seed in the bye. They're ready, they're prepared going, into Ford Field. But it's going to be hard for the Commanders to, they everything is going to be against them. So it's going to have a lot to go their way. I don't think they win this matchup, but I do think they make this interesting. The spread is a little disrespectful. It's understandable, but with Jayden Daniels, I don't think you can underestimate him. So I'm going to say that we're going to cover the spread. I saw it at 9.5 earlier. I think it's back at 8.5. I don't know if they changed it again. But I like the spread. So I think, even if it is towards the end of the game where we find momentum, I think, we're going to try and make this game interesting.
All right. Miko, what about you? What's your best bet here?
Yeah, I like Jahmyr Gibbs, plus 125 yards rushing and receiving. I know David Montgomery's back. I know they're going to try to get him involved, but again, he's still this is his first game back. And the way this coaching staff always approaches things, even when players are coming back from injury, even though he's had a full week of practice, they're still going to be careful with him. Like David Montgomery was very close to being out for the season. So I don't expect them to get him too involved. So I still expect a heavy dose of Jahmyr getting the majority of the touches. So it wouldn't surprise me if he still ends up with 20 touches in this game. And we all know when it comes to Sonic, he's capable of getting those big chunk yards. So, 100 plus 125 yards in that game seems like a really good bet for me.
Yeah, I like that look for sure. And look, Jahmyr Gibbs is somebody that I don't say it lightly, does legitimately remind me of Jamal Charles and the way that he has that level of acceleration, especially when he gets around the edge. It's special. And he maintains it through his cuts as well. It's incredible to watch, really. And so for him, like you said, they're going to be, again, judicious with their ability to use David Montgomery to make sure that they protect him as they're working back in and get him ready for what they expect to be a playoff run here to come. I understand why you would go with Jahmyr Gibbs on that side from that perspective. So all that's left, as far as the game picks are concerned, obviously this is a big spread, Mandy. I think we all, probably do favor the Lions from that perspective, even as you say cover. Give me an X factor that you have to look at in this game, specifically for the Commanders' ability to keep this game closer than the spread would suggest.
We talked about the secondary targets, because Terry's going to get a lot of attention. But I do think they are going to try and get him involved. I think, like Cliff said before we went on this win streak, when money's on the line, I'm going to Terry. And we've seen it over the past couple of games, especially in the big moments. So I think Terry's going to be the X factor. I think they're going to try and move him along the line. Like you said, Jayden has shown his tendencies, to work towards the right of the field. And, Terry's primarily lined up on the left, but we have seen him moved around a little bit. So I think they're going to continue to do that. And I think this game goes as Jayden and Terry goes.
All right. Miko, as far as X factor of this game is concerned, what do you think will, kind of swing things in your favor?
Yeah, I'm looking at Alex Anzalone. I know this defense, again, has played better. Obviously, the last time we saw them, they held Minnesota to only 9 points. And I think Alex Anzalone had a lot to do with that, with his ability to defend in the run, blitz, but specifically his ability to cover tight ends. And so like we were talking about earlier with Zach Ertz, he's having a bit of a resurgence since his time in Philadelphia. And so that's someone that if you can take away that safety blanket for Jayden Daniels, again, these short yardage situations become much more manageable. And so if Alex can continue his high level of play since he came back from that forearm injury, again, I think this defense plays at a much better level when he's, basically on his P's and Q's.
Yeah, I completely understand that as well. I'll pick one kind of from each side. For me, as far as the Lions are concerned, I keep hinting at it as far as what I think that this is going to look like. I think Sam Laporta is going to be the X factor. If that gets going as far as the heavy personnel sets and his ability to catch the ball, I don't know what the Commanders are going to have as the answer as far as slowing them down from that perspective as well. On the Commanders side, though, I think a guy that if they're going to stick in this game and maybe create some of that variance and get after Jared Goff, Durant Armstrong has got to show up, and he's also got to be strong at the point of attack as well. They will attack the edges. Obviously, they have two great tackles. No matter which side Armstrong is going to end up on, he's going to be attacked, particularly using Jahmyr Gibbs as far as that run game is concerned. If he has the ability to have some type of effect on this game, then you're talking about using the interior defensive line effectively, having something from the edge. Then you have the possibility of variance and chaos being created in your favor from that perspective. I want to thank both of you guys so much for coming on to preview this divisional round game. Of course, happy to have you guys back and talk some football as well. Anything before we go ahead and get on out of here, guys?
No, man, I would say I expect a really good game. I think You know, Manny, like you were saying, I do think the spread at 9.5 can be a little disrespectful because I think this offense has the opportunity to be explosive in that way. But I still expect this to be a pretty good, decisive, game for the Lions at the end of the day.
And that's completely understandable. Like it's every facet of the game it favors you guys. So we've had a good run. I'm not going to concede defeat just because I've learned not to do that this season. So I just hope for a good game. It's the divisional round. It's the playoffs. Anything can happen. So, but I'm waiting to see what it's going to be a lot of offense, a lot of offensive plays and highlights. So I'm looking forward to this game. Hopefully, it's Commander Phil, but
Yeah, absolutely. Look, like I said, it's two great storylines. Two teams that I think are going to be explosive. I do hope again to see those fireworks really out there in the turf, and I'm sure that building is absolutely going to be rocking. But once again, make sure you guys check out Miko Scott over there at Pride of Detroit. Make sure you check out my guy Manny. Of course, I am DMac Wake 316. Enjoy the days of football. It's going to be a lot of fun this entire weekend. Obviously, concluding on Monday with the national championship game. Hope everybody enjoys. Peace out.
Peace.